Look, I'm a damn good writer. I'm not gonna be shy about this. I'm a very good writer.
Imagine being forced into military duty at a young age and spending years going down that path, only to find out you hate it.
It was horrific.
But then, years later, you stumble across something that you think you might actually be good at and love. Okay.
Mhm.
And you had experience in this?
No, hell no.
Oh my goodness, this is shaping up to be quite the story. I'm Dennis Geelen, host of the Happy Accidents podcast, and in this episode, you get to meet Yuval Ackerman, the ethical email strategist, and her amazing happy accident story. My guest today on the Happy Accidents podcast is Yuval Ackerman. Yuval is an ethical email consultant who helps B Corps and personal brands turn their subscribers into their biggest fans. She's been named a top marketer to watch in 2024, and she challenges the so-called best practices and gives actionable better practices that are deeply rooted in consent-based and audience-centric marketing to improve email performance. She's also a food lover, especially pasta, a songwriter, and a full-time nomad on a mission to find a place to call home. Yuval, welcome to the Happy Accidents podcast.
Hi, Dennis. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, this is great. There's so much to your story to unpack in this episode. Hopefully we can get through most of it, but you're a nomad. We're gonna have to get into that.
Hmm.
You call yourself an ethical email copywriter. Well, obviously, we have to unpack that. And you've had some incredible happy accidents along the way. So we're going to be digging into those, right?
Of
Um,
course.
let's start with your background because you've had quite a diverse background, right? I know you've been in the military. We'll dig into that. Journalism. You've worked in restaurants, training managers. You've worked in a law office. You've taken a break to travel. You went back and worked in another restaurant, and now you're more in the marketing and email writing, along with some songwriting and music production along the way. So take us back. How did this all start? We're going back to like 2010, 15 or so years ago. Um, did it all start with you going into the military?
I guess so. That's where I usually start telling my story because I grew up in Israel, despite the confusing accent. So as a part of that, I did have to go and do the military. It is compulsory also for girls, usually do 2 years. I did three because
Mm,
fortunately I didn't have to do anything serious. I was just a journalist in a national radio station that has a 50% reach every hour. Which is
mm,
a lot of responsibility for a 17-year-old.
wow.
Which I was back then. It was literally a week after I finished high school and then I got enlisted. And I did that for 3 years, long training, so to speak.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was quite the experience because I got into there with the wishful thinking to really tell the truth and tell stories, tell other people's stories. And
Mm,
what I've experienced there was actually lack of consent. I'm mentioning it now
mm,
because we will talk about it later. A lot of lack of consent, a lot of incidents where I was forced to cover stories that someone my age back then, 17, 18, even 20-year-old, doesn't need to even come across things
mm,
about death and war without getting any kind of protection, without getting any kind of um, yeah, counseling or therapy or anything. So I really, I finished that. A lot of my friends did continue working in the media, and I was like, nope, not
mm.
doing that anymore. And I just took a
So
7-year hiatus.
this was a real eye-opening experience for you, and I want to unpack a few things here. First of all, um, joining the military in Israel is mandatory. It's compulsory, male and
Correct.
female, and it's age of 17 for everyone.
18, I because it was just a year, one time a year kind of enlisting for that role back then, I had to get a special a signature. Like I had to drag
Mm,
my folks with me to the nearest office and to have them sign on the fact that they allow me to get enlisted at 17 technically.
right. So that was your choice. You wanted to come in a year early into the military.
Yeah, because otherwise I would have missed my spot. And this is a super prestigious
Mm,
role that only there were only 40 of us.
right. Okay. So journalism was something that you aspired to at the time, that you saw yourself potentially having a career in that area?
Even not even. I just my mom recommended that I would give it a try because she knew how much I love telling stories and she knew this is a very prestigious role and she
Mm,
just told me give it a try, you have nothing to lose and I didn't know
yeah.
what else is out there for me roles wise in the military, so I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a go.
Did you already have a sense of what you thought you wanted to do after the military? Did you have like a career aspiration, or was it like it's a tough question for anybody at 17. Like
Yeah,
it's the first question we ask anybody coming out of high school. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Like you're only
right.
17. How do you know? You haven't experienced anything. But did you have thoughts? Did you have ideas of what you wanted?
I grew up writing songs, honestly, in my room. That was my, it might sound a bit sad, but I would come back from high school and I would just lock myself in my room and take up my guitar and write songs. I
Mm,
thought that I would be working in either in like songwriting or music production. That kind of was the direction I thought I'd be going into.
right. So this was really just go get some experience, see what it's like out there in the real world, see what it's like doing journalism, and see if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah,
And as you alluded to, it wasn't.
it was horrific. No, there were some good parts as well, but I really felt like the black sheep of my round, I guess. It was a place with a lot of mental abuse. Let's just say it as it is.
Mm,
I was called to the principal office on a weekly basis because I stood out. I could not,
mm.
you know, stand
Like
out
you were
because
outspoken, you mean? Like you would say, "Hey, why are we covering this story, or why are we covering it in this angle, or what was it like for you?"
no, no, it was more like at the time, I don't know how it is nowadays, but whoever was a generation before us actually would train us on doing all sorts of things. And I got things very, very quickly. That's a pattern. That's just who I am. I get things very quickly, and then I see how I can take those things that I learn and optimize them and improve them, which my um, commanders, I don't know how to even call them, like the year before me, those guys and girls, they just hated. They hated the fact that,
Mm,
2 weeks in, I was already doing the job better than they
right,
did.
right.
And so I was considered a troublemaker, believe
Mm,
that.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, that's it's understandable. You see that in union environments as well. You know, it's only do so much. Make sure you take your mandated breaks, and don't make us look bad, because we're all supposed to be equal and do the same here. So if you get somebody who's a go-getter and they come in the door, that can really get people's noses at a joint. So safe to say you did not enjoy overall the experience of those 3 years. So you come out, did you have an idea of, okay, what next?
I honestly just wanted to travel, which is something that a lot of kids who are released from the army just do. They save up, work, and whatever it is, and they fly and discover the world and get a break, which is
Mm,
exactly what I did. Despite the fact that that I back then thought that I was this damn snowflake and so special, but I did exactly what everyone else did. I saved up and I just went traveling for half a year.
right. Where did you go?
I was 3 months in New Zealand, a month volunteering with retired elephants in Sri Lanka, a month in Vietnam, and a month in Cambodia.
Wow. So that's some pretty diverse areas, getting to see some different parts of the world. That would have been a pretty cool experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So eventually you end up working at a restaurant. How did that
Yeah.
come about?
Well, listen, I just love food. I love being around food. I am the happiest, honestly, or it's one of the times I'm the happiest when I'm either cooking or hosting. I'm obviously always very stressed about, meeting the expectations, but whatnot. But my love language is absolutely food.
Mm,
I plan all of my plans, in new places around food. My family is making a huge, mess when it comes to well, I grew up in a family that loves food too. Like they're to blame, when it comes to, my love for food. But I'm making so many, whenever I'm going to a new place, Google Maps, just saving all of the
yeah.
different places that I want to see, and everything is
Yeah.
centered around food. So going to work in a restaurant, aside from the fact that it was very easy to get a job without any kind of prior experience,
Right.
it was just like it was my happy place.
Mm, mm. And you ended up being the training manager, I believe, at that first restaurant you were working at. Was that again because you came in, you were a go-getter, and they just saw that potential in you?
They did, luckily, for the first time. Yeah.
Right. There you go. So a much better experience. Um, but then you switched to working at a law office. So how did that come about?
Ooh, I can't remember which one came first, to be honest. So the law office is of my mom's. She needed someone to help her with the
Mm,
tech. And she's just not a very techie person, which is quite ironic because of what's coming up next.
yeah.
But she just needed some help with the tech, and then I just stayed and got to the point where I just managed her entire
Hmm.
firm for it's not huge,
Wow.
but I managed her office for several months.
Yeah, you were the office manager. So that was some responsibility on your shoulders there. So how old would you have been at that time? You're in your mid
Ooh,
20s at this point, or?
not even
Mm,
because I moved to Berlin when I was 24 or 25, so that must have been like when I was 22 or 23.
wow. So 22, 23, you're managing your mom's law office.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've gone from the military, journalism, to traveling, to working in a restaurant, to now managing your mom's law office, all by the age of 22, 23. That's what we call on the podcast here setting the stage. You're getting out there, you're experiencing things, you're traveling, you're trying different jobs, you're meeting different people, you're increasing your luck surface area. And for those listening or watching, this is building towards something because there's a happy accident that comes a few years down the road where all of this kind of comes full circle. Um, but we won't do a spoiler alert yet. So there's still plenty of your journey left. You went back to working at another restaurant after the law firm. I think training again. You were at one in Berlin, Germany, as a
Hmm.
restaurant trainer again. So what
Yeah,
prompted
I
you to
was
move to Germany?
well, the official excuse was that I went there to study what I thought would be music production and ended up
Mm,
being more technical, more audio engineering, which has some similarities to music production, but not quite.
mm,
But yeah, that was the official excuse. I was just like, I want to study something to do with music. I want to give it a shot. I want to reconnect to another love of mine, which is music. Berlin. Why not?
mm,
I mean, Berlin
right.
honestly was my third choice, but you know, it is what it is.
Well, you've traveled a bit by now. You've experienced a bunch, and you've kind of come back to this original love. Like you said, as a teenager, you would come home from school, you'd go lock yourself in your room, you'd strum your guitar, and you would make music. And now,
Hmm.
after experiencing all this other stuff, finding out things you don't like, finding out, what it's like to live in different areas, it's like, hey, I'm going to go to Berlin and I'm going to study this for real and, kind of live out this passion. So I'm assuming the job at the restaurant was to pay your way through the schooling as you're in school.
Yeah, there's one thing that I haven't mentioned in between. Like before
Mm,
moving to Berlin, I had a sales job. And I was yet again, like when I just got in, they started a new team, and they trained us all. And yet again, they dropped us into like the hot water of sales. And
mm,
I was the top salesperson in my team, in the first three
wow.
months. So you definitely see a pattern of
Yeah.
learning, training, not being able to shut up and just doing
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to be doing, um, to the point where I think I can do like to the best of my abilities. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because as we're talking, your journey throughout your 20s is like the polar opposite of mine. I had a completely different mindset. Not saying right or wrong either, but my mindset at the time was, okay, I need to show that I'm a good, stable employee. I'm going to work at one place. I'm going to show I'm dedicated. I'm going to work my way up the ladder. And that looks good on a resume because if I ever want to change, somebody's going to look at my resume and go, oh, look at this person. They were at the same place for 10 years and they worked their way up. But not necessarily. I mean, you can look at somebody's resume like yours and go, wow, look at this person. They've seen so much. They've done so much. They've taken some bold chances. They've experienced things. They've, attained all these different skills by doing different things. So there's two completely different ways of looking at those two different approaches.
But look, I wish someone would have looked at my resume in 2019 and 2020 the same way that you just described, because
Mm,
the honest truth is that I tried applying to all kinds of marketing jobs
mm,
back then, and no one would even look at me because they were
yeah,
like, you have gaps in your resume.
right.
What is this army service thing? And like you worked at restaurants and a law firm, like you have no, and you studied audio engineering, you have no experience in marketing, and we need someone with experience. And I
Yeah,
couldn't have said something along the lines of, um, yeah, like I've done journalism at a national radio station when I was 17. No one even got back to me. I couldn't even get
yeah,
an interview.
yeah. It's too bad because I think a lot of companies, a lot of leaders in companies do have that mindset that I was describing. We want the person who's got the exact skills, the exact experience, and has shown that they're dedicated to a company for a long period of time. That doesn't necessarily mean that person is going to be the best person for the job, though, right?
Hmm.
Like you take somebody like yourself who's a real go-getter, is no problem moving to a different place, no problem trying a whole different industry, no problem taking on roles and responsibilities at a young age. Like those are characteristics you want in an employee, somebody that shows that I can learn and I can take this on and I've got the confidence to do it. But unfortunately, that's not what people see when they look at a resume.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
luckily that, enticed me and encouraged me to open my own business. And in all
Hmm.
fairness, I don't think I was employable, maybe ever. Not
Mm,
really.
right. Right. Yeah. That's what they say about a lot of entrepreneurs, right? I'm not employable, so I have to start my own thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that what really prompted you? Like okay, first of all, let's talk about why marketing. You went to Germany to study music, you were working in a restaurant, and then you started applying for a bunch of marketing jobs. Like what happened there? Why that change?
So I worked in a bunch of restaurants, and let me tell you, I think I worked in like three languages. Not that I felt like I wasn't even fluent in either of them at that point. But the thing is, working like customer facing jobs that are underpaid is not the best thing for someone's back, or
Mm,
even someone's mind. And I got really tired of being underacknowledged and undercompensated. And I just thought, you know what? I love telling stories. I really want to get back to telling stories. I don't know how, but I think marketing is where you tell stories. And that's kind of how
mm,
things rolled, I guess.
right. So you apply to these marketing jobs. You can't even get an interview.
Mm-mm.
You just the light bulb goes off. I'll do my own thing. Or how did that come about?
Sort of. I was also working in yet another gastronomy hospitality place, and COVID was knocking on the door. Like, not,
Mm,
COVID was right around the corner, and you started hearing more and more, stories about how restaurants are going to close down and etc. So I just thought, you know what, I can't count on this, and I don't know what out there is available, but I know that I have me, and I've been trying to do this for a while, and it's not working through someone else. I might as well just start and see what it's like. So
mm.
that's exactly what I did.
Wow. I mean, just looking back through your journey, so many bold moves on your part. First, jumping into the army a year early, right? Into something that you have no idea if I'm going to like this or not. Coming out, traveling to different places, trying different jobs, going back to school in a different country. Hey, I think I'll start my own business. It seems to kind of fit with you and your personality that this would be the obvious next move for you.
It never felt obvious. I never felt like I had what it takes to be
Mm.
an entrepreneur or a one-trepreneur. I heard this term yesterday and I loved it. And I still, like, to this day, there are days, if I'm completely honest, there are days where I'm like, can I do this? I don't know. Um,
I feel that
who's
in my
this
bones.
boss? Who's this boss? Like, she's wonderful, but she's also so mean sometimes. Like, all these
Yeah.
long hours, like 4 hour week. What? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was at this point where you had started your um, marketing company and
Hmm.
you were doing mostly, I believe, done for you. Like, hey, I'll write your copy, I'll do your, but something happened. You had this
Yes.
epiphany, this happy accident, this moment. Do you want to talk us through what happened here?
Sure. So, at 2022, I believe, I had a very unexpected client contacting me, and that client was my mom. And my
With
mom,
her
who
law
is
office.
with her law office, and she has been trying to start this new venture within law. Um, and she went and specialized in cybersecurity. And she knew that she would need to market this new business venture with her business partner. But as she's been a lawyer for, I can't remember how many decades now. She's not that old. But she's been in business for,
She might be
if you
listening, so just be careful.
she will be listening. She will be listening, This is
Mom, you're young.
Mom, you're young, you're beautiful. Don't worry about that. But yeah, she wanted me to help her market her new business venture, and I said, "Listen, I have no idea how I can write this. I have zero knowledge in
Let me stop you
cybersecurity."
for a second. I got to ask some questions. So, cybersecurity, this was your mom's law firm was going to represent people who had been hacked, or what was she doing in the realm of cybersecurity and law?
So the idea was to help companies have better protocols and better systems around cybersecurity so they
Okay,
won't be hacked.
right,
So it was more of a comprehensive solution for companies that, even not cyber security companies, but any kind of company that
right,
cares about data protection and
right,
some kind of protection from hacking, and then what to
right.
do
So
if something
policies,
happens.
procedures, stuff like that. Okay,
Hmm.
and you had experience in this?
No, hell no, not at
So
all.
your mom
She
comes to
didn't
you.
either. She didn't either.
Oh my goodness, this is shaping up to be quite the story. So your mom, who has no experience in this, decides her law firm is going to get into that. She comes to you, who has no experience in this, and says, "Hey, can you help me?"
No, she took a very long training. Like she actually sat down and she went back to school and she studied this specialty,
Right,
and did like a like almost like a degree in this.
right.
And she was very much at it. But again, not a techie person at all. This is
Gotcha.
why,
Okay.
I
Right.
stepped in. And I said, listen, Mom, I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea how can I help you with this? So I cannot write things for you, but I can perhaps sit down with you and your business partner and write with you. And
Mm,
she ran the idea through her business partner, and he said, yeah, I mean, like, what do we have to lose? And then I sat with them for several months and I would teach them all kinds of like copywriting formulas and sit down with them and see what they're writing. And we would come up with ideas, and we would write together and I would fix their writing. And that was quite the process. And
mm,
we stopped working on this several months in because they just got too busy or too distracted. I can't remember exactly, but we stopped this and it was about to be summer of 2022. And then my mom just came to me and said, you know what, you're really good at this, like teaching this stuff. Why don't you do that in your business? And me being me in front of my mom, I'd be like, what are you talking about? No, no way. But the idea kind of stayed with me for a few weeks. And then I just said, you know what? I'm a marketer. I'm gonna test it. I'm just gonna test it
mm,
and see what it's like. And I posted something on LinkedIn and I said, I'm opening this experiment. It's free for the first 10 people who want to sit down and write emails for a month together, or was it 5 weeks? Um, I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm going to test it. If you would
mm.
like to have someone supervising your writing, um, come join. September 1st, we're starting. Was it September
And
1st? It was
and
September.
this was something you were charging for, like, hey, for these 5 weeks,
No,
or
this
is this a
this one
free?
was that
Okay.
was free. And 10
Wow.
people, I got 10 people like within less than a day and we got rolling.
Nice. So this was your first time actually doing this with a group of people through your business, not doing it for your mom as a
Hmm.
favor. It's like, hey, I'm going to test this out and see how this goes. I'm assuming it went well.
Yeah, I'm actually wrapping up. Is it the fourth cohort in a couple weeks?
Wow.
And this cohort changed changed so much since this beta version, because now we're doing 6 months. And how personalized it is, it definitely changed, and it changed the entire trajectory of my business, really.
Mm. So do you still do done for you, or are you strictly doing these done with you cohorts now in your business?
Are we asking officially or unofficially?
However you want to answer that.
Well, officially, I'm not offering done for you anymore.
Right.
Unofficially, if someone came,
Gotcha.
and told me,
Yeah.
we really, really need your strategy and copy
Hmm.
and our budget is this and that, and someone whom I worked with before recommended you, then I would say, let's have a chat. Why not?
Right.
But right now my business is solely, either strategy or consultations.
Wow. So, and all of this happens because your mom comes to you and says, hey, can you help us? You weren't going down this road at all with your business. You were still doing marketing and writing and emails, but a completely different business model that you never thought of. But the light bulb goes off because of working on this project with your mom. How cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is to blame yet again.
Yeah, mom's getting a lot of love actually in this episode. We told her she's young and she's responsible for your business idea here. So this is incredible. So now you're 2 years in. to doing the done with you, the cohorts. How's that going? What's next?
It's been going really well. The impact that the business owners who either have completed this program or are in this program right now, the ripple effects are way beyond emails, because email doesn't live in a silo. Email,
Mm,
the way I treat email is a
mm,
part of a whole system, and a part of marketing as a whole. We cannot treat email as this one standalone piece.
mm,
So just seeing how much, my ex-musclers, it's called email muscles. So my ex-musclers have grown, and how much their businesses changed and grown and transformed in some cases is just, you know, it's just so heartwarming, and I'm just so proud of them,
mm.
honestly. So the cohorts are going. I am now, yeah, going full on into consulting because
Love it.
I look, I'm a damn good writer. I'm not gonna be shy about this. I'm a very good writer.
Mm,
Is that where my heart is at the moment? The answer is no. I'm
yeah,
much more intrigued by the strategy piece. I'm much more intrigued by the idea or the fact that I can be there. I'm really good with consistency, with holding the hands of my clients
yeah,
and finding solutions for them. So everything in my business right now is about meeting with clients, seeing how we can solve their email
mm,
problems and beyond, and cracking this, honestly, because email
yeah,
marketing is such a misunderstood channel, and feared channel in many cases.
yeah,
And it's really not that complex once you know what you're
mm,
doing. So
yeah.
that's
So
where I
I
step
want
in.
to touch on a couple things here. Well, first of all, I think that's a fairly natural progression, right? I think a lot of people who are freelancers in some way or another start off doing the work for somebody else, and eventually they progress into advising and teaching. It's that
Mhm.
whole give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, and typically it's seen as a much higher value or price point. Hey, teach us how to do it. That's seen as a much more valuable thing. You can charge a higher ticket than, hey, just do it for us. And then you're always chasing the next client, and you can only handle so many clients, and you're trading your time for money. You get into, yeah, I'll teach you how to do it. Well, it doesn't matter if there's 5 people in the cohort or 50. You're teaching
Hmm.
the same stuff, but it scales, right? So love that that's the progression that your business has taken. I'd love to see where you are a year from now too. We should swap notes because I'm on a similar trajectory. What I want to touch on though is the fact that you specifically um, market yourself as an ethical email
Hmm.
marketer rooted in consent based and audience centric marketing. That was right in the bio, in the intro, right off the top. Does that go back to your days in the journalism, in military, where you saw all these stories that were not consensual? Is that where this is rooted in?
In a sense, yes. It's one of the biggest, not the only, unfortunately, but one of the biggest experiences in my life where my own consent and my own, I guess, willingness and participation was taken for granted.
Mm,
Um, and unfortunately, as a human being and as a woman, I have had other, experiments in life where my consent was not a part of the equation.
mm,
Um, and, when I specialized in email, I, I couldn't really justify it to myself because email was and still is perceived as this sleazy, spammy, annoying means of communication.
mhm,
But when I discovered that it could be different, could be better, and it could be a channel through which we really create deep meaningful conversations about things that matter. And yeah, sometimes money changes hands. I thought that, and also, by the way, this is what got me hooked on email marketing specifically, was the endless storytelling opportunities and how you can gamify and
Mhm.
personalize the experience for almost every individual on your list. I was like, this is fascinating.
Mm,
I want to do this.
yeah, I love that. Again, just incredible that something that happened much earlier in your life where, hey, I realized I didn't like journalism. I realized I want to go in a different direction, but your experience there stuck with you. And now something you're doing 15 years later that's embedded in the root of how you're running your company. So a happy accident, I don't know, but definitely had an impact on you. Um, wow. So what's next for you? You've got the cohorts that you're running now. Do you plan to expand, allow more people into the cohorts? Do you plan to do something else with your business? Where do you see yourself 2 years from now?
In 2 years from now, wow, that really depends on so many things because, I'm the kind of person who is very rooted and grounded, and I kind of know where I am headed or where I want to go, but I'm also very open to whichever opportunity that comes my way. I never thought that I would be doing cohorts,
Mm,
but that kind of came my way and felt right. So I started that. But the cohorts now also have a one-to-one version. The cohorts are open. I'm as to the date that we're recording this, I don't even know if I'm going to launch it again this year. I just left
mm,
everything open. Like whoever wants to come and join us can. Um, there's a one-on-one version to that, which is way more strategic and way more accelerated. And that's for, I'm looking at the impact that my business can create as a spectrum. And the
mm,
cohorts in the one-on-one are more for the personal brands. And I'm hoping that in 2 years' time, I can also tell you, you know what, Dennis, I managed to fill in and fill up the rest of the spectrum. And
mm,
I'm now teaching consistently bigger companies, specifically B Corps, and 1% for the planet brands, how to do it themselves, in a way that is scalable and in a way that is sustainable as well, and in a way that balances people,
mm,
profit, and the planet. So in 2 years' time, I'm hoping to have at least, maybe I'm being ambitious here, but at least a dozen companies that I've helped and trained,
mm.
and almost kind of like not certified, but they got everything I could possibly teach them about how to do their email marketing better, honestly.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we'll have to have you back on the podcast in 2 years so you can tell us where you're at and how it's going.
Okay.
Before we dive into the learnings that I'd like you to share and some fun stuff, we have to touch on the nomad part
Ooh,
of
okay.
you and your journey. So you don't have a home base that you call home. How often do you move around? What does that look like for you?
Well, it's a part-time job. Let's just put it this way. I am currently in London. I'm going to be here for the rest of the summer of 2024 and maybe a little bit beyond. I'm checking my options. I'm more of a slow med. So I am trying to stay in one place for at least, at the very least, a month, if not two or three. Um,
Okay.
I have had 2 months in the past, I don't know, 12 months, where I just hopped around between like 4 and 5 and 6 countries, which is not sustainable and not for me. And it's way too
Mm,
fast, and I'm
yeah.
exhausted. I just had one of those. But that's just, circumstances and opportunities that I said yes to, and I seized them, and hopefully, good things will come out of those. Um, and yeah, I'm just looking for a place that feels like home, a place where I would
Mm,
want to unpack my trolley and
right.
bring all of my stuff back from Berlin. I'm really looking for this place. I
Hmm.
I love traveling, but I am such a homebody. I would love to find this place.
Hmm. So it's not that you're against the idea, it's that you haven't found that place yet, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, again, we'll check in with you in a few years and see have you found it and what does that look like?
I sure hope so.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about some learnings. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken out of your journey along the way?
Um, the first one is definitely get curious. There are so many opportunities and options and angles out there that you might not think are possible or even exist. Like if you would have asked me 15 years ago, you know, would you like to be an ethical email consultant in 15 years? I'd be like, what is that? Excuse me? So things are constantly changing and you just have to, I don't want to say roll with the punches. That's a really, really bad phrase. I don't know who invented this,
It's a cliche. Yeah.
but just get curious and be open. That's the first one. And I think another major one is you're not for everyone, and that's absolutely okay.
Mm,
Um, I am a strong, opinionated, savvy, educated woman in her 30s. This is, let me tell you, okay, let me tell you, this is not giving me any street cred in the dating apps, but that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I am not for everyone, not in life and not in business, and that's okay
mm,
because those who want to get to know me, those who want to be around me, they get so much. Um,
mm.
and I'm just so grateful to be at peace with this realization.
Yeah. Love it. Be curious, be open, and understand that you're not for everybody. Those are wise words that we can all learn from. We've talked about it a bit, but looking back, how much of a role have you seen that serendipity or randomness plays in your journey?
I would say probably a good 50%,
Hmm.
if not more, but let's just be yeah, conservative here perhaps, about
Right.
50%.
Yeah. I mean, you could have gone into the military and not done the journalism thing and had a very different experience. You could have loved it and been a military person for life. You know, that happens.
I don't think
Um,
so. I don't think
no,
so. I'm a
no,
pacifist.
right.
And let me tell you, just wearing uniform, not for me. Not for me at all. So itchy and
Wasn't
so
your thing.
tight.
No.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, I could have done something completely else. I could have been a completely different person today.
Mhm.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of the things that you ended up doing throughout the last 15 years was not part of some sort of master plan. Hey, I like food, and it's pretty easy to get a job at a restaurant right now. I'll go work there. And that gained some experience, gained some connections. You know, you traveled, you saw different parts of the world. That was a really, hey, I think I kind of like being a nomad and traveling around. But you know, you had this opportunity to work at your mom's law firm that brings her back to you years later to, hey, can you help us with this? But none of it was part of a big master plan that you had. It was, hey, this fell on my lap. I'm curious. I'm open. I'm going to go for it. Just like you told us in your learnings that that's kind of what's shaped your journey to now.
Yeah, definitely. And I
Yeah.
can give you a quick scoop if you would like to hear that.
Let's hear
Um,
it.
there will be a way for me to get back to food with my own business,
Okay.
hopefully soon enough. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know when this will be released, but whoever is listening or watching us, just make sure to, I don't know, look me up online and see if my live streams are already happening.
This is so you gave me a little teaser about this ahead of the podcast. This is about a monthly recurring show that you're thinking about producing.
I don't know if monthly, they could be bi-monthly.
Okay, okay. But it's a show. It has something to do with food. Keep your eyes out for that with Yuval. Okay, let's end this off with your favorite quote. This is a very famous quote. You gave it to me ahead of time. It's one that everybody probably listening to the podcast has probably heard it before, but I want to hear why it means so much to you. So the quote you gave me is from Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Why is that your favorite quote?
As a marketer, um, I can tell you that my job is to tap into people's emotions without feeling predatory or manipulative, and help them
Mm,
make better informed decisions that would hopefully improve their lives with my clients' solutions. People's attention spans and memory are horrible these days. I'm, I'm a very good example for that. I can't remember what I've done 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago, 2 hours ago. I don't know. But um, people do remember feelings. And one more thing, if I can bring up my mom again, one thing that I
mhm,
learned growing up was you cannot argue with feelings. You can
mm,
argue with facts. You cannot argue with feelings.
yeah,
And as a marketer, and as a human being and as a woman in this day and age, I cannot control everything, but I can at least take responsibility um, on how I make people feel, at least the people that maybe I'm not in direct contact with, but are exposed to my work in some way or another. And that's a huge responsibility. And I think the more people understand that we need to use that power and that responsibility fairly, the better we are as a society, as a community, um, and the better place we're leaving behind us.
yeah. I love that. What's your mom's name?
Shira.
Shira. Just want to give a shout out to Shira. She's had lots of love on the podcast, but she has raised an incredible daughter. Yuval, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can people connect with you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn with my full name, or they can find me on Threads where I share things beyond just, the professional and ethical emails. They can also find my website, which is a constant work in progress, ethicalemails.co. If you really want to get into the nitty gritty of what email marketing, ethical email marketing is all about and how it can help you grow a sustainable business and balance people, profit, and planet, subscribe to my newsletter. Honestly, like it's I can't really think of any other newsletter out there that has so much value. Like the things that I'm sharing, honestly.
Hmm. We'll put all those links in the show notes. Yuval, thank you so much for being on the Happy Accidents podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Happy Accidents podcast. I hope you find these stories as intriguing and insightful as I do. But make sure you don't miss an episode. You can subscribe to my Accidental Solopreneur channel on YouTube and watch these episodes in video form, or subscribe to the Happy Accidents podcast on Apple and Spotify for your listening pleasure. Until next time, stay lucky, my friends.